before the conversation is happening, prep yourself. What do I mean by that? So you already did a huge portion when it comes to the content, right? Like you made the request and you journaled about it and talked about it with a friend maybe. So you know exactly what you don't want to talk about. And if you don't, you'll journal a little bit more or look back into your journal and make sure, okay, what do I actually, what is actually my key here? My intention. And then the other big piece is you want to become present. Becoming present with yourself before the conversation. So here I want to share some practices that we could do in order to become more present. Mindfulness, meditation, and breathing, for example, right? So there's just really simple, and breathing is so powerful. Even if we just took 3 breaths together, in through the nose and out through the mouth. In through the nose and out. Maybe add a little sound to it. One more time. In through the nose and out. That for me does wonders. Oof. Okay, right? So just that simple, very simple 3 inhales, 3 exhales. Then there's different ones we can do. Just really focus on a 2-step breath where we breathe into our chest and our belly and then out from our belly, chest, mouth. Really concentrating on that. Or box breathing is something I love, especially when there's a lot going on. It's 4 steps, so I'm going to guide through for a moment. In for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold the breath for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. And hold the breath, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale and exhale. That focuses the mind so much on one thing, only the numbers and only the breath, and really calms your nervous system. And that allows you to be more present. And maybe you want to even align movement to your breathing, right? There's this one thing I learned in my yoga teacher training. Both arms up. I'm not going to do this now, but it's too hard for the podcast to just walk through it. Here we go. That's it. Yeah. But just basically really becoming present. Another thing is when there's just a lot going on, a lot of emotions and lots of thoughts and maybe even other things. Maybe you just got out of a work meeting or another family conversation or I don't know, anything. Go for a run, go for a swim, anything that gets your heartbeat up a little bit and really pumps the oxygen through your organs and blood and just nourishes you with new energy. It releases endorphins that really help you to reduce the pain. And I think it's not just the physical, but also the mental pain and really to trigger uplifting feelings. So let the endorphins do the work here. Just get them in. Just exercise a little bit. Or if that's not something that feels that feels good for you in that moment, it varies. We're so different every day, right? Maybe self-care is the righter thing. So that could also be some rest, maybe making a tea or napping instead of rushing from one thing to the other, just taking your time, maybe doing one thing less, just focus on the most important things and do it with care and intention. And again, maybe you want to journal about it. to just become present, journal about anything that's going on, so that's out of the way, and then you have time for your and presence for your actual topic and conversation. Or and you can also again journal about um, why do you have this conversation right now? Why does it mean so much to you? What do you want to get out of it for yourself, not from anyone else? And remember, what is success? Um, and, especially when it is a person or when the conversation is something that makes you feel angry or very emotionally charged, it is good to just sit down and maybe you want to write it down or you want to think about, let's say, 10 things that you really appreciate about the other person. And this exercise brings us into our hearts, into the love for the other person despite the topic. Because the other person in this topic right now, it's not everything. The person is much more than that, right? And it's really, really helpful in that moment right now when there is so much pain and hurt maybe involved to come back to see their love, to see their genius, and to see why is this person important to us in our lives right now, right? There are other characteristics and features about them that we really genuinely appreciate. And if that is hard, that's okay. Take the time. Take the time because it will come. You will remember the good parts, and not that others are bad, but the parts that feel like you appreciate about that person. And if nothing comes to you because you're so blocked by the fear or hurtful emotions, then maybe ask a friend that reminds you again why this person's in your life. That just recently happened to me. That I was like, well, this person really is never really there for me. I don't even know right now. And then the person's like, well, wait a minute. Last year, during this really intense process, I think that person was there for you a lot. I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot. And I felt bad in the first moment, but then I was like, no, 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 it's okay. Our emotions are really strong. And once one emotion dominates so much, then we just need each other to remind each other what's actually kind of reality, if that even exists, right? So, yeah, don't feel bad, but give it a try for sure. Give it a try because that is really important to build more compassion and be in love. Like, what a better place than to be in love and gratitude and compassion when you want to start a conversation with someone, even though it's really difficult. You know. And now it's happening. The conversation is actually happening. So we're prepared. We know what we're going to talk about, and we have our intention. We're mentally and emotionally prepared. We're present. One tip before we start: be on time. Be on time. It sucks so much not being on time because it's frustrating. It does not make us feel present. We're not relaxed. One of my dearest friends says, arrive happy and relaxed. That's his mantra. And I'm like, I'm going to live that from now on. It's challenging at times, and in other times it's a little easier. So, but why is being on time so important? Because being on time if I'm late because I'm running late because of traffic, then it's just traffic. But for the other person, it seems like I'm not valuing that person, that conversation enough. I'm not valuing him enough or them. You know what I mean? Like it's not just the traffic. If this was important for me, I could have left earlier and checked the traffic and the maps or whatever. So I'm making sure I'm there early. But that was not my intention. But I don't even want to send that energy out. So let's just do our very best in moments where it is really, really important to arrive on time. And again, like I've been definitely guilty of that in the past. And I think I'm still carrying, that's the worst part. I'm still carrying that weight on my shoulders from all the times I have not shown up on time for something or someone that is very meaningful to me. Right? And I actually just remembered a recent one where I was I was planning on having a very important conversation with one of my dearest humans at 5 p.m. And after I was really hurt and confused and shocked, to be honest. And that afternoon at 4:50, I realized, shit, I am in the middle of something here, editing my podcast, and it took way longer than anticipated. I asked for later, like, can we reschedule for a little later? And I didn't get a response right away. So I thought, all right, I guess we're not rescheduling. And I was again in my really narrowed and selfish thinking at the moment, and I thought he doesn't want to meet later. So it turns out that he had prepared a space, the time, and his presence for this conversation with such high intentions that I, in that moment, unknowingly and unintentionally, but completely disrespected. And even after an apology and request from me to reschedule, he said, this is not a priority for me anymore. It was in that moment and that day, and all the meditation he put in there beforehand, and it wasn't anymore. And obviously, there's other factors that are involved in that particular situation. It's not just not just me not being on time, but if I was on time, we would have had a chance to connect. And now we don't have the chance. And I'm asking myself, was I actually ready to have that conversation yet? And I had to be honest, I wasn't, but I wanted to be. And my priorities showed up differently. It didn't seem like aligned with my words. And that is a totally different topic, but what I want to say, like, if we know that we want to have something, a conversation here, then let's be on time. Okay, enough about that. I hope that's important and that that we all do our best with that, and forgive ourselves if we, don't. Again, we're all humans. Well, let's have this conversation now. Okay, so before we jump right into the topic, it can be super, 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 super helpful to become present together and set an intention together, right? So becoming present together could, again, be like breathing. Let's just take 3 collective breaths together, or do any technique that you feel called to, because it is such a powerful practice. We can, just drop in right here. We can even add eye gazing to it, a few breaths together while watching or seeing the other person and letting the other person see me. Wow. Like, this is what we want in a conversation, anyways. We want to be seen and we want to see the other person, nothing else. So, eye gazing already drops into such an intimate connection. Gratitude. What we've practiced maybe on our own before, we can appreciate each other and just share gratitude in general, maybe. What are we grateful for today? Or what do we appreciate about the other person? It's just really about being in a high frequency, right? Being in a heart frequency between us. And that, again, allows us to be more compassionate and present with each other. And if we feel like we are not present, we think about, is the microwave on? Is the laundry on? Should I put my stuff in the dryer? Oh my God, is my car locked? Am I going to get a ticket? While I actually want to have this conversation right now? No. So there are techniques to present, yourself, presenting. It could even be that simple when you say, okay, I have 3 minutes now, you have 3 minutes now. One goes first, not at the same time, where we just allow space for 3 minutes and we set a timer to become more present, and then to just vent or rant on something, like just make noises, just make sounds, just movement, anything that you're carrying from the night or from the day, to get that out of your mind, right? Get that out of your body, out of the focus. And the other person is just non-reactive, holding space. Don't ask any question. Don't make any comment. Just let the other person release. And then you do the same. These are just some exercises that I found very, very helpful. And it might seem funny to you. It might seem like, no, I don't want to do that. That's awkward. But try it. Just give it a try. I promise. It won't hurt, and it will definitely be worse than if you didn't do it. So, again, what can you lose? After becoming present together, set an intention together. And I think that is a really important part. I mean, if you work together, or if you, for example, if you work on a project, you don't just start doing anything. You want to set an intention. What is this project about? What do we want to get out of this project? So we have kind of a goal. Now we're becoming vulnerable. So we've been grateful, we're present, and now we're becoming vulnerable. And I know this is scary. But again, what can you lose? Nothing. You're winning to let the other person see you, truly you, unapologetically you, give them a chance to love you and have compassion for you, and you do the same thing with the other person. In order to do that, again, sharing the intention, beginning with just share. Why is this important to me having this conversation with you right now? Maybe because our relationship means so much to me. I love you. I want to improve our relationship or deepen the trust between us or get rid of an energy leak. Find out if this is the right thing for me right now. Find out if I'm able to see you right now during this time. Anything. Anything that is true for you, share that intention with the other person. And listen to the other person's intention too. Right? It's beautiful. It's beautiful dropping into the vulnerable aspect of them, because then the second step of this becomes a little bit easier because we're sharing what are we afraid of? What makes me nervous about this conversation right now? Because there is probably a reason why we waited so long, or why we made it such a big deal out of this, because we're afraid of something. We don't want to lose it. I could be, I'm afraid of not seeing you at all during this time because I really need you and I want you. Or I could be, I'm afraid of rejection. I'm afraid of that you would laugh about me if I made the request to have inspired conversations in the morning. Um, and that's why I've been hesitant to ask. Or if you're the one that is invited into a conversation and you have actually not really an idea why Steffi wants to talk to you about this whole COVID and thing, you're just nervous why this is such a big thing here, and you don't know what's coming, and you're afraid that, I don't know what your fear might be. You're afraid of her telling you bad news, something, right? Just really being honest in that moment. And from there, from that vulnerability part, we can go to the other side. What do we hope? Like what are we hoping for that this conversation brings? Right? So for example, I'm I'm hoping that you will listen to me and I can express my feelings and that we find a common ground, or that I get to hear your opinion, that I get to explore what you would like this morning routine to look like. And I hope that we get to know each other better, fall in love with each other more. Whatever it is that is your truth and your hope there, go with that. Go with that, and um, that is also linked to your intentions. Like, and by that time now, you've thought about your intentions so many times that it should come a little natural for you to really know what you want to say there and what's true to you. And the end, when both sides share, agree on that is what you can offer each other. And if not, what is it that you can offer each other, right? Like if Paul says, I don't want to just listen to you today. That's not what I want to do. I want clarification. Well, it's not an and or a no. So you just talk about how, you find your common ground. And this is important because you get to create a safe container for yourselves. And you don't have to wait for another person to create that. You're in charge to create your own safety. And I know it takes some extra courage sometimes. I know. Super hard. Even if it's the most ridiculous conversation at the end, right? Afterwards. And you're like, wow, this is such a big deal. But it's important. because you want to feel safe. You can create a container for you where you feel held by just the energy and the atmosphere and the other person, because the other person is there for you as well, right? So this was kind of an adapted framework from Laurel Prince, who I've processed so much with in my life, and she's also a co-facilitator in my online class that is all around falling in love with self. And I also read Malika, who's been on my podcast a few times now. Love his teachings, and he also teaches that framework, but most around like that. I'm afraid that, and I hope that. So here's my topic, right? Here's what I want to tell you, and you can apply this to many, many, many different kinds of conversation, even without the whole scenario beforehand. But I think the whole journaling and presenting is really important, and really, really bringing sanity and confidence, truth to the way you show up in the conversation. And if you already think, wow, this is all way too complicated and complex, I don't want to do that. I don't want to overwhelm the other person and myself. Well, and I think I said it earlier too, let me tell you something that I'm certain of. All the people, and maybe even you, that admire other people's way of communicating, the way they treat other people, the way they relate to each other, they all have had and are continuously having complex and uncomfortable, complicated conversations to get to that way of relating. There's no doubt about that. Conversations and really leaning into the complexity and discomfort of conversation to make it comfortable is key. So if you think clarity and sovereignty just falls from the sky with the rainbows and the unicorns, no, you gotta wake up from La La Land here. Yeah. So if you want to be vulnerable, you gotta be the permissionary for others, and vulnerability is the foundation of trust. And that's the bottom line. You want to trust each other in life. And I know trust is such a hard issue or topic, not an issue, it's a topic for a lot of people. And when we look into media, there's hardly anything we can trust. You can create trust. You can create an atmosphere or curate an atmosphere of trust by being vulnerable. Like I love Brené Brown's quote here: vulnerability is the birthplace of love, birthplace of belonging, joy, courage, empathy, and creativity. It's the source of hope, empathy, accountability, and authenticity. If we want greater clarity in our purpose or deeper and more meaningful spiritual lives, vulnerability is the path. Yeah. And you know, whenever we fall into this like, oh no, I can't let them know what I really feel, I'm too much right now. Do not ever underestimate the power of you and your truth and being seen the way you are. Again, this is becoming a permissionary, and your truth, you will attract the people that love you for who you are when you actually show them who you are, right? All right, I digressed here a little bit for a moment, but so we're in this conversation. Where are we?